the speed that you could carry on those big wheels. And yeah, I got to the point where I was really charging on some technical trails to the point where I charged a bit too hard and flatted one of their tires. And yeah, I actually felt kind of bad because 32-inch tires are pretty hard to come by at that point. But got to the point where I could, ride quite aggressively and quite natural. And yeah, it was a good first kind of perspective for me to spend a couple days on the big wheels there.
Welcome to the Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast. I'm Matthew Piaro. With me is Matt Hansen. Welcome, Matt.
Hello again. We meet at last.
This episode features Geoff Kabush. The mountain bike legend returns to the pod. He's not only a skilled rider, but he's been deep into bike technology for more than 2 decades. He tests for and gives feedback to companies such as Shimano, Maxxis, and Fox. I wanted to speak with Kabush to learn more about 32-inch wheels and tires. Those big hoops have been in various top-level competitions this year, like Cape Epic, the Cross Country World Cup, and Unbound Gravel. Kabush shed some light on what the new wheel size could mean for riders like you.
Me?
Yes,
Oh.
You too, Matt.
Okay.
But first, Matt, let's talk about the Tour de France. For me, the first few stages gave us, I'd say, a bit of a roller coaster. After stage 1, the team time trial, this was in our group chat. Someone said, "Oh, we have a race," because Tadej Pogačar was gasped 12 seconds down on Jonas Vingegaard. Did you feel that way? How did you feel?
No, I didn't, because I knew that the next day something else would happen. And he also went the fastest up the climb there. I think what's cool about this opening week is that, it's no longer the week of super fast, flat stages where inevitably a GC guy crashes. But I think that's actually one of the byproducts of having these tough stages is that early on, you split things up and you don't have that nervous energy, which is the reason why you have all these crashes, right? And inevitably a GC guy crashes out. But now it's like, yeah, it's tough and probably no fun, especially if you're Arne Villy. But it at least makes it so that that nervous energy is expelled early and because of the hills. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly a ball game.
And also on that note of the first week looking a bit different than we sort of have become used to. On the 4th stage, there was a huge breakaway, which I have to agree with commentators. They said something like, this looks like the kind of breakaway you usually see later in the race.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the race is evolving and changing. I gotta say, we got a nice last-minute addition to the tour, and that was the inclusion of Derek G. West getting on the Lidl Trek squad. We didn't really expect that this year, but there you have it. And the national time trial champion wore his Maple Leaf jersey in the opening Triple T. As we're speaking, he is more than 20 minutes down in the general classification. Do you know what I think that could mean, Matt?
He's going to go for something fun.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping maybe a breakaway, maybe some stage hunting. And I sort of have to temper that by saying, no, this isn't the Giro 2023. I don't expect that level of breakaway fun, let's say. But his main job is supporting Juan Ayuso. But as we saw at the Giro d'Italia, Lidl Trek seems to be okay with chasing multiple goals. At the Giro, there was Giulio Ciccone balancing his support for G West and also stage hunting. So maybe we see G West in a Ciccone-like role.
Yeah, I think it's all going to depend on Ayuso. I mean, there's Scalamosa there too, who's such a great climber. But I think it'll all come down to if Ayuso keeps up there. And if he doesn't, then they'll say to both him and Scalamosa, like, yeah, go for it. I mean, we have Pedersen, who's obviously not going to be in the high mountains, but he's going to be in big breaks. Yeah, I could totally see that happening. I mean, normally in these stage races, it seems like there's maybe 30 guys later on in the race that are just going to go for breakaways every day. When things are kind of settled, like they have the GC settled, you have your super domestique rules settled, and then you have a bunch of guys, 2 dozen guys who every day will try and get into a break. That's why it's the same guys, right? But yeah, I'd love to see him take a stage of the Tour. I think he would too.
I agree. But you mentioned Mads Pedersen, and that got me thinking, okay, back to the Giro. At this year's Giro, they were also looking for or working to help Jonathan Milan to get him some stage wins. He only got one on the last day. So I don't know. Now, to contradict myself, maybe Lidl Trek is going to take a lesson from the Giro and scale the ambitions back, maybe scale how many goals they have throughout this tour. But actually, to your point, it depends. It depends on who's placed where overall.
I think it's kind of like Visma or UAE, you'll notice that when there's big breaks, they won't be in them because they have one goal, right, to get the yellow jersey. They don't care about little stages at this point. But yeah, they must have a multi-tiered strategy, right? Like if Ayuso falters, which it could happen, I mean, hopefully it doesn't, then we'll do this or whatever. So yeah, we'll see what happens. It's in flux.
In flux.
Ever changing.
Sticking with road racing, Sydney Swaringa, who we seem to talk about frequently for good reason. She has been having a good season. The Liv Alula Jayco Women's Continental Team rider from Vancouver. She rode to 5th overall at the Volta a Portugal Feminina, but won a jersey.
I mean, remember, this is her first year elite, right? And she's just been, she's come close to a win, but she's had all kind of smattering of results. And this last one was great. We also had Kiara Lilac, who she actually had the white jersey early on, first stage, and she was top 10 in 4 of the 5 stages. The only one where she wasn't was the TT. It's a tough one. But yeah, both of them were riding great. And Annabelle Thomas, we should have mentioned, she was riding in support of Swaringa. So yeah, it's another annoying day for Canadian Cycling Magazine because more results, more work for Maddie.
Oh, poor guy. I should clarify, Swaringa took the best young rider's jersey at the end of that event. All right, going from road racing to ultra endurance, Megan Hakkinen from Kelowna set a new Tour Divide record. This isn't her first Tour Divide record, but she has a new one. And the record is 14 days and 10 hours. She covered a distance of 4,400 kilometers, and that's from Banff, Alberta to Antelope Wells, New Mexico.
Oof, that sounds painful. Like just everything, back, everything. Not just legs at that point. Oh.
Another record fell for Tour Divide. Megan Hakkinen has the female record. The male record now is in the hands of French rider Victor Bassoni. He covered the distance in 11 days, 8 hours, and 27 minutes. Another long-distance record fell on Canada Day. That was by none other than Swain Tuft. He set a new fastest known time for the BC Epic 1000. It's not quite 1,000 kilometers. It's actually 1,040 kilometers. And Tuft did it in 2 days and 3 hours. That includes a ferry ride in there.
I love all these guys who just retire from cycling, Rob Britton, Ben Perry, Swaino. It's like, yeah, I'm done cycling, but let me just go do these insane rides instead.
Yeah,
anyway.
And do them quite well.
Quite well, yeah.
There's a link between Tuft and our featured interview with Geoff Kabush. They have more than just BC as their home province, don't they, Matt?
Yes.
What else do they have in common? I thought this would be the first thing out of your mouth.
They rode for Symmetrics?
There you go. And listeners, you probably know that Matt Hansen drew the comic book for Symmetrics. It's a very cool, I don't know what you call that. It was a promotional device, but it was just a really cool way of letting people know who the team was. Who was harder to draw, Tuft or Kabush?
Yeah, Swain was quite big, right? But I think the funny thing was, too, is that I had dialogue in there when I'm trying to it was also a promotional comic for the team and the sponsor. So I'm riding my Norco here as I ride along with my Shimano Dura-Ace. And he was just talking to some guy, he's riding along with, which you'd never actually say. Or maybe you would, I don't know. But yeah, But it was a neat idea. This is way before you see a lot of comic book and cartoon stuff for teams now, like you see the NHL. And this was just an idea I had. And Kevin Cunningham, he rest in peace, he said it was a great idea, and we had it in shops and schools and everything. And it was just a neat way for people to learn about cycling. So yeah, that was a neat project.
I love the stilted ad conversation mixed in. I just happen to be riding my Norco Tactic here.
It's honestly what it was like. But yeah, that was a good time.
Awesome. The occasion for my conversation with Kabush, though, is not symmetrics. It is his experience with 32-inch wheels. He's ridden them. He also has a custom-made gravel bike with the big hoops. On top of all that, Kabush really knows bike tech. He's helped with the development of group sets, suspension, and tires. He's also seen a lot of bike technology evolve over the years, from even before symmetrics. So he's one of the best people to give us perspective on the emerging 32-inch wheels. In this interview, he has insights as to how they will work with everyday riders, not just those at the forefront of bike gear. Also, there are some bonus tire tips too from Kabush for whatever bike you are riding.
How does this not surprise me at all?
It does.
Sounds very on. I've lived in Kabush's house, and I remember him giving lots of advice to everyone that would listen.
Well, it is good advice. It was no doubt good advice then and good advice now. So here is my conversation with Geoff Kabush. Geoff Kabush, welcome back to the Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast.
Yeah, happy to be here. Happy to chat, as always.
So the focus of our chat today will be big, round things on bikes, especially the emerging field of 32-inch hoops. But first, you're calling from your old stomping grounds on Hornby Island. What bikes do you have with you at the moment for taking on the routes you've ridden since childhood?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite places in the world. I have a little wagon without a bike rack, so I just brought one bike over for the visit this time, and it's my kind of in between SB 120, kind of the stepchild bike, but 140, 120. It's like super fun, fast mountain biking over here. Usually I bring a gravel bike too for underbiking, but just the little mountain bike, little trail bike here.
All right. So how does this bike, your Yeti, compare with, say, some of the bikes you rode on Hornby Island as a young rider?
It's actually funny. I've only kept 3 bikes in my career, my 3 Olympic bikes actually, and they're hanging up here and in the rafters. And yeah, it's pretty funny to look at. I mean, my 2000 bike has a hardtail with a 140 mil stem and 3x drivetrain, 26-inch wheels. But yeah, I mean, I would love to have, some GPS data from back in the day on some of these trails. So I just remember it feeling like I was going so fast. But yeah, that would have been on original 26-inch wheels, 50 PSI with candy brakes. And yeah, it's some really good memories of pushing the limits here back in the day. But I have no idea how fast I was actually going. But bikes sure have come a long, long way.
For sure. I'm going to ask more about tech, say then and now, and possibly future. But on bike tech in general, you are, and I think it's safe to say, a gear nerd. This is based on various toys and tools you present from your garage and other interviews you've done with us on Canadian MTB and Canadian Cycling. What is the appeal of tech for you, and what keeps you interested after more than 25 years of riding mountain bikes?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's almost my career has come full circle. I mean, the technical side and the equipment when I started mountain biking was always really fascinating. I mean, I remember being intimidating when I first started, all these strange words like derailleur and figuring out how bike works. I went into mechanical engineering in university and pursued that degree. So I've always been kind of fascinated about those mechanical things. And it was, a big part of my career. I actually really enjoyed working with the companies, and that's what I still do a lot right now is kind of the R&D testing with Maxxis and Fox and Shimano, and talk with Yeti, my bike sponsor. And yeah, I've always been fascinated, and it's been really enjoyable through my career to kind of test out new things and use my perspective from all the different disciplines to kind of tease out what makes sense. But I think I was always like an early adopter, one of the first people, on Shimano disc brakes. And, growing up in BC, you could really see the advantages of disc brakes. I mean, we couldn't really ride through the winter much without changing our V brakes every couple rides. And, early, I used to get mocked for having the riser bar, but riding in technical BC conditions, I could really see the advantage of the wider bar. I mean, I used to get mocked for my quote unquote wide bar at 660 or 680 mils, which is ridiculously kind of narrow compared to the standards these days. But yeah, and then, just, yeah, jumping on and seeing the value of things despite the weight, if there's performance there. I was early adopter, and yeah, with Fox, still see the old Cabolt out there, which some people don't know. That's my cursive signature on the Cabolt on all the Fox forks. But yeah, just seems like a ridiculous idea now. But yeah, it's been really fun to work with some of the companies and with Maxxis and test, do the R&D, and then see those products come out to the public.
My colleagues and I have noticed that interest in technology varies from rider to rider, whether that's regular riders or pros. And even some top level riders, say, unlike you, are not too fussed about gear. Do you think riders who are ambivalent about tech might miss out on free speed, or do they just have a different approach to racing?
For sure. I mean, had that mindset, but I think a lot of my success, I mean, obviously had some talent, but understanding my equipment and where I could gain advantages was a big part. And some riders just like to tune out and take the recommendations. And if they have like really good support staff and mechanics and tech savvy people in their support group, that helps out. But man, there is like really subtle things. I mean, with especially tires, I've, talked to some young riders and understanding the different constructions and shapes and thread counts, and, being aware of these things where you can gain advantage can really benefit. But yeah, it depends on the mindset. I was really interested in looking for those marginal gains in equipment and where I could gain advantage. And some riders just like to focus on riding their bike, but it was part of the sport that I really enjoyed, and I think there was some advantages that I gained over my career.
I definitely want to get into tires and maybe some of the advice you give with regard to tires a little later. But before that, what's some of the most exciting tech you've seen lately? Whether that's stuff released, already released, rumored, or even stuff you would like to see.
Well, I think we're still waiting to get rid of the chain and changing gears, but that I've been waiting for 20 years. But I think we're just in such a golden era of bikes right now, just reflecting on the failure rate and equipment and maintenance we used to have to do on bikes, and especially on the 29-inch platform on mountain bikes. There are some amazing bikes, and it's really fine tuning those bikes. But man, I think riders these days are really lucky how amazing the bikes are in the selection. And there's still, some development going on with suspension. It keeps getting better every year, but the geometry on those bikes is pretty dialed in, and you can see that across the board. A lot of the bikes are starting to look pretty similar, but we're still seeing, yeah, advantages in tech and some electronics. Love it or hate it, having the batteries on your bike. But I mean, still refining some of the suspension, and excited seeing some of the stuff I've been able to see and work on that will be coming out in the future years. And yeah, I mean, tires, I mean, yeah, we used to have a lot of flats, and just seeing where that came from, like talking about when I started, I was running 52, 55 PSI. And I mean, that's been one of the major changes over the course of my career, is the pressures and the tires and the width of the rims, and just all those small incremental changes over my career. And we're in pretty sweet spot with bikes. They're a lot of fun. Especially the small cross country bikes have made huge leaps and bounds. Across the board, it's pretty cool to see the equipment these days.
I'm curious, what do you imagine the chainless solution to be with bikes? If we were to give up the chain and the gears, where do we go?
Oh, I mean, just talk of internal gearbox, and you're starting to see some of that development, but it's been thought of for last decade or two. But yeah, it's just getting the weight and friction down. And the chain is a pretty amazing engineering solution that's, really efficient and relatively light. And it's been hard to create something better than that, and still do be determined if we'll see that across the board. Besides, electric bikes that have the motors on them, they can overcome those deficiencies. But I'm still a big guy on the pedals, and so the chain is, an amazingly efficient engineering solution to drive the bike forward right now.
All right, let's get to wheels. Just for context, how many mountain bike wheel sizes have you ridden throughout your lifetime?
Well, probably little wheels, which I can't even remember. But yeah, starting racing was 26 and 27.5 a little bit, mostly on trail bikes. But yeah, I made the leap a little late. I mean, I used to kind of mock the big wagon wheels being 29 in the day, but we can talk about that. But it was definitely a transition where there was some positives and negatives as that transitioned to 29. And yeah, lately I've been having fun doing some testing on the big 32-inch wheels.
So were you, if I'm to understand that correctly, were you a bit hesitant with the 29ers? You were a bit like, I'm good with 26 for now? And is that what your first take was?
Yeah, I mean, I think the transition right now is going to be a lot smoother, but I think the engineering and transition from 26 to 29, there's definitely some issues along the way. It's kind of chicken and egg. Chicken and egg. You see that with the 32, like who's going to make some nice tires, and then when are the suspension companies going to commit, and have they figured out durability in the wheels? So at first there was a pretty big weight penalty just because there wasn't the equivalent like high end race product. I think the advantages were there, but to get the equivalent high end race product took definitely a couple years of 29, and there's a lot of sorting out of durability with the wheels. I mean, saw a lot of wheels collapsing, trying to deal with the torque and spoke builds and that kind of stuff. And then just refining the geometry. And it also had to do with the bike company I was riding for and platform. I mean, Gary Fisher was far ahead. And finally in 2012, I was riding with Scott, and early season, we were still undecided, which was going to be our race platform. And I did some preseason testing on 26 and 29. And at that point, Scott had a really nice 29-inch platform and did some testing down in southern US. And it was really pretty dramatic testing those bikes back and forth. And from that point on, I was all in on 29. But, you know, I like to make fun and poke some fun and heckle people. So yeah, there was a lot of fun jokes going around those initial 29-inch days. But yeah, I think it just took time. Like I said, the chicken and the egg for all the components to mature and develop until it was like a really good race platform. And we saw that switch. I remember like I think like one World Cup year it was maybe like 10% 29ers and 90% like smaller wheels. And within a year, as the industry matured, it like almost flipped in 12 months to like 90% of the races were on 29-inch wheels. It was just, yeah, once all the companies' development and product got there, it was a really quick switch when everyone had, competitive products.
Now, do you think the industry will be able to move 32-inch wheels a little more quickly, having possibly learned from the evolution of 29?
For sure. I think, yeah, there's a lot of lessons learned, and just the engineering and the bike industry has got a lot more tools and testing. And I think there's been a lot of time spent behind the scenes developing 32, and it's going to be, I think, pretty refined. You'll see some of the bikes coming out quite soon, and I think we would have seen a lot more. Except a lot of the product cycle has been pushed back just from COVID and excessive product in the pipeline that delayed launches. And the R&D is often 3-4 years out, and so there's a lot of 32-inch product that I think's been pretty dialed in, but it's been pushed a bit just because of the product cycle has been all delayed. And struggles in the bike industry with excess product and having to get these product year models, everything sold. And so, yeah, challenge of the bike industry. But yeah, I think there's been a lot of work behind the scenes, and there's going to be, I mean, I think soon we'll see a lot of that coming out.
I want to keep our focus on mountain bikes. And as I understand it, in May 2025, you rode a mountain bike with 32-inch wheels. Can you tell us about that ride? Actually, can you reveal whose bike it was?
It was just a custom built hardtail. I was doing some testing with Fox for a couple days, and so spent a couple days riding with Fox, working on some geometry testing. So I got good solid couple days, yeah, riding down their office down in North Carolina, and some slippery technical riding. So it was really yeah, really good experience to inform my ideas and see the positives and negatives of the platform.
Now, what were your first impressions of the big hoops the first time you rode them, and how did they compare with your expectations?
Yeah, I mean, it was actually a pretty high degree of difficulty test session because there was like so much changing all at the same time. I mean, on a hardtail and big wheels and trying to give some good feedback, but there was certainly, I mean, I was just surprised how quickly I adapted to the wheel size and how quickly it felt normal. But I mean, it was early days, so they're pretty heavy wheels, so it's hard to get, apples to apples comparison about the acceleration. But you can't ignore that these wheels are going to be a bit bigger rotating weight, so there will be a little downside. But man, the contact patch was, I wouldn't say it was as, massive a jump as like 26 to 29, but like I'd say 75% of that, like feeling a difference. But the traction from that contact patch in the corners, but little things like, man, the one of the big things that stood out was the climbing traction. I had some pretty kind of slick stuff, but riding some slick climbs where you typically I'd feel like start to pinch and feel like I was going to slip, but it was just like tractor up these kind of slick things, even with some like Aspen XC tires. So it was a good couple of days, and yeah, at the end of it, we were kind of descending like a bobsled, like you know FSR road, and that's was really kind of eye opening, the speed that you could carry on those big wheels. And yeah, I got to the point where I was really charging on some technical trails, to the point where I charged a bit too hard and flatted one of their tires. And yeah, I actually felt kind of bad because 32-inch tires are pretty hard to come by at that point. But got to the point where I could, ride quite aggressively and quite natural. And yeah, it was a good first kind of perspective for me to spend a couple days on the big wheels there.
I'm just wondering, like, how does the handling compare to 29-inch wheels? Like, does it feel more boaty? Does it feel bigger, more cumbersome at all?
I think that's where I was working on some of those handling characteristics with Fox, and it's really comes down to, like I said, took a little while with 29ers, and that's what I think people have been working really hard. And with mountain bike geometry, there's so many inputs as far as the head angle and offsets and bar height. So I think it was feeling very natural to me. We were testing a bunch of stuff, but I think people would be surprised how similar it feels as far as handling, like descending. Jumping on any new bike, there'll be like some relearning some of the inputs and limits and how hard you can push and where the edge is. Just like when I switched from an XC bike to my enduro bike, it's like, yeah, trying to learn how hard I can push the different platforms and different grip levels. So there's always going to be a bit of relearning on a new platform. But for me, it was like surprisingly easy transition. By the end of the 2 days, I felt pretty normal. Even to my eye, the perspective had changed so quickly. We showed up on a group ride, a couple of us on 32-inch mountain bikes, to a group with some 29. And man, the 29, I was like, are those 27 5-inch wheels? And it's amazing how quick things get normalized. I remember that at the World Cup, and I mean now you see a 26-inch bike. At first, 29-inch bikes looked weird, and now, man, these days you see a 26-inch bike, and yeah, it looks quite strange to the eye.
That totally makes sense when you just spend enough time with a certain wheel size, yeah, it does become normal. And then you go back.
Especially at my size. I mean, yeah, the mountain bike and my gravel bike, like to the eye, it looks very similar to my girlfriend's bikes, Katarina, who's 5'5". Like the proportions look very similar. I'm just at the opposite end of the bell curve.
I was going to get into rider height. You are 6'2", around 188 centimeters tall. That seems like the right height range for a 32-inch wheel size. Do you think there's a lower limit in terms of riders and who matches this wheel size?
I think we'll see. I mean, that's the big concern. I mean, there's a big concern with 29-inch on who's going to be able to fit. And I think we've, with 29, kind of found the right balance. I mean, on some small sizes on trail bikes, you'll see kind of mullets with the smaller wheel, and that can't be ignored. I mean, a rear 32-inch wheel is very big for butt clearance, or whatever you want to call, for technical descending.
It's funny we don't have do we have a term for that? Rear end clearance, rider rear end clearance.
Yeah, so there are some. I think the engineering challenges to be determined where that, what part of the bell curve will fit into 32-inch wheels. But yeah, I think, as like I said, some of the big benefits on XC is the rear wheel climbing traction. So I think we'll see the packaging. I think there's some pretty unique solutions out there. And I mean, we've seen at the World Cup, the last XC World Cup, Matthias Flickiger, who, I don't know, he can't be more than 5'8", or I'm not sure his size, but made that packaging work for him. And I mean, to be determined, yeah. I mean, I think on the drop bar side, there's a lot more room to fit smaller riders, and there will be some challenges. And I don't know what their lower limit is, but it was a major concern on 29. And yeah, we'll see as these bikes come out. I've talked to some very short riders in the 5'4" range that have, tested 32-inch bikes, so they've made it work. And yeah, we'll see where the geometry goes. And I mean, I know pure XC riders are really focused on keeping their bar height low, but I think there are some adjustments with geometry with the 32-inch wheels. The rear chainstays are a bit longer, and it makes it much easier to keep the front wheel on the ground. That was one surprising thing I found, like climbing steep trails on the mountain bike I did ride, because the longer rear end kept the front wheel tracking on the ground really well. And so there might be some adjustments, and the need to keep the front end as low. I mean, it's a balance of power and position. And well, I'm sure we'll see some unique packaging solutions to fit riders of different heights, but to be determined, yeah, how wide a bandwidth we'll see of different sizes. I think the bigger question is, yeah, like different lengths of travel bikes, where we'll see mullets, or, I mean, you see Nico Mullally already testing the big wheel up front with the mega mullet. And yeah, that big wheel in the rear is definitely a packaging constraint. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes the next year or two.
I was going to get into the different areas beyond XC. Like, as you mentioned, Nico Mullally has that mega mullet, and he won Sea Otter DH on that. And I'm just wondering, so with XC, I believe, as you said, the advantage is having the big wheel at the back. But with maybe more gravity-focused things, the mega mullet, the mix is maybe a better combo? Or do you think there might be a space for big wheels, both front and back, in more gravity-oriented riding?
I just think it's going to be really hard to package a bigger wheel in downhill for some people. I mean, you see riders of different stature struggle with the 29-inch, with the clearance, butt clearance, whatever our technical term for we want to come up with that. But there are definitely some advantages there, but it's going to be packaging constraints. And I think different horses, like the different wheel sizes have, bigger advantages in different scenarios. Like really fast rolling terrain, constant velocity is where I think the 32-inch wheels really shine. But steeper more technical trials where you have to really hang off the back of your bike, it's going to be more challenging with that big rotating wheel. So I think it's, to be determined, the disciplines and bike, and what packaging is going to fit best for different disciplines and different riders and different terrains.
With forks in mountain biking, it seems they've been creeping up in travel as well as stanchion diameter for a few years now. Will 32-inch wheels require moving further in that direction? Either more travel or bigger diameter stanchions? Or will there be, like, I think Mullally was actually limiting the travel, but that was just to fit the actual front wheel. So anyway, what are your thoughts on forks and the interplay with the new wheel size?
Yeah, I mean, there'll definitely be advantages and disadvantages. I think we've seen more and more travel because we've been able to extend the forks with very minimal weight gain and maintaining the efficiency with new suspension. So I've seen, I mean, yeah, an XC bike set travel going up. I think because we can maintain that packaging without gaining much weight. Yeah, there's going to be some more engineering challenges with the larger wheels with more forces on deflection. So that could increase some weight, but also some big benefits as far as suppleness, because there'll be more overlap in the force with the bushings, which will create a smoother sliding surface. Just more overlap between the stanchions and the fork legs creates a smoother, more stable sliding surface. So like I said, I think still it's the packaging restrictions where we see some people messing with the amount of travel. But yeah, we'll see where the steps go with XC bikes. I imagine most of them will stay with similar travel whenever possible. But the other thing to think about is the angle of attack with the bigger wheel. The forces going into the fork are a little bit different. Just the angle that the tire and wheel hit a rock isn't quite as sharp a impact with the larger diameter, which changes the suspension dynamics and speed of the movement in the suspension a little bit. I mean, that's one of the things on my gravel bike. I notice it really dampens the impacts, or on a smaller wheel size, I'd be bracing a bit more, but on the bigger wheel, it just feels like it almost minimizes the impact or the feedback from the trail. I feel like I'm getting about 50% of the expected feedback from the trail just because of the bigger diameter rolling over small and medium bumps. So it's, still adjusting my mind to how much feedback I'm going to get back from the visual bumps I see on the trail.
I almost imagine you pre-flinching and then you hit the bump and you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, kind of, brace yourself and you're like, that wasn't too bad. But I'm still learning the limits because I only have a very few tires for my gravel bike. So I'm like, oh, I don't want to destroy these tires. I'm actually just talking to my Maxxis contact, Duncan, this week about getting a few more the Aspen 2.15 gravel tires, so I can actually, start experimenting a bit, pushing the pressures lower and be a bit more aggressive, because I've been a bit hesitant because minimal product available right now.
Yeah, I want to get more into the gravel bike in a second, but returning back to mountain bikes, what about trails? Will trails be affected, or trail design be affected, whether that's at the World Cup level or even the local level, with a wider adoption of 32-inch wheels?
Possibly. I mean, there's still some of the old school trails in Squamish that I can tell were built for 26-inch bikes. I mean, I'm pretty big, so I think we've seen the wheelbases grow longer, and so I can definitely tell some of the switchbacks are hard to navigate on my big, longer wheelbase 29-inch bikes. And I think bikes will be built for the terrain, but I think we've really seen World Cup courses change. I mean, I think the desire is to keep the racing closer, which makes it more exciting. And so the courses have become a bit faster, more rolling without the extended long climbs. And I think that is actually going to suit the 32-inch wheels strength a little bit. I mean, in past, in my era, we saw some really long 10-minute climbs and really tight, more natural. But now there's more courses where it's flowing in faster, which makes it really exciting tactically. And we've seen the time gaps come down, which is great for the excitement of the sport. But in general, I'd say World Cup XC courses are trending faster and flowy, which suits the advantage of the big wheel bikes.
You mentioned your gravel bike. This is a custom gravel bike with 32-inch wheels that was built by Sam Whittingham of Naked Bikes. How did that project come about?
Yeah, I mean, I've known Sam since I was young, getting into bikes. He was in Vancouver Island, the local scene, working on different projects. And recently, I'd seen him at BCBR a bit, and I do this kind of fun underbiking world championship ride on Hornby Island where I am now. And he came over, and I'd kind of, since when I was young, I always admired Thai bikes and got to ride Thai bikes a little bit at light speed, and had been thinking about getting Sam to build me a bike just as a platform to test some different tires and wider tires on a gravel bike. And after that that Fox test, that was one of the things that came out of it, was like there's definitely some positives and negatives and advantages on the mountain bike to be determined, but I knew I wasn't gonna get one for a little bit. And I thought, man, the advantages of these wheel sizes was really suited for gravel bike. And so I just kind of pitched Sam on the idea, and yeah, he was game. I think like he does a lot of cool builds, but the kind of new project kind of excited him. The problem solving of the packaging, the bigger wheels, and yeah, we had some challenges finding the equipment. I mean, the only like competitive wheels were from Chinese company called NextT, so I had to order up some rims, and there isn't really specific gravel forks, so we got a Boulder NV mountain bike fork because of the axle to crown was a bit shorter with 100 mil front hubs. Chatted to Ben Pye at Shimano, and he sent me an old XTR front hub that he was going to turn into a salt and pepper shaker. It was a struggle to get the wheels built, finding some spokes, and yeah, eventually got Bird to build me up a wheel set. Probably took me 6 months at least to get the wheels built up, and yeah, and then Sam was going on a 6-week bike packing trip to New Zealand, and it really worked out well because it came out. Finally got it together. I think Sam did some beautiful craftsmanship and custom painting, and came out just in time the start of this year when Maxxis launched this new tire, which we kind of had to guess what tire size. We made it to clear 2.4 Aspens because I didn't know when other production tires were going to be coming, and then but designed it around like a 55 mil tire, which the 2.15 Aspen short track is, and so got the perfect tires that we kind of had designed the bike around. And yeah, it was super fun, exciting project just to be able to have the idea and make it happen with Sam. And yeah, it's I really enjoy looking at that bike. It's a beautiful bike. Sam did a really cool job with the paint job, and still super fun to ride. Yeah, just the ride quality is amazing, and every time I jump on it, it's really fun bike to ride.
Now, was there any back and forth discussion with you and Sam? Like, were there any challenges or even like design disagreements that you guys faced as this bike was coming together?
I think we're on same page. We just like some challenges, like I said, with equipment and bike spec and just the brake mounts. Like had to pair some XTR calipers because of the brake mounts with some Durace, and then yeah, he's really experimented with some more modern gravel geometry, which really helps solve some issues with the bigger wheels. There's concerns with toe overlap, but he's built a bunch of bikes, gravel bikes with longer front center and shorter stem. And so, I mean, I got tons of room on toe overlap with the big wheels, and it's really like really well suited. The design's really well suited to the kind of riding I love to do. I mean, I love kind of riding single track on drop bars, and yeah, he really was able to keep the rear end really short. Aesthetically speaking, he didn't want like a real dog leg kinked seat tube, so he to get a perfectly sculpted seat tube bend, I think he had to order a new tool and like 35 small bends to get just a nice arc to perfectly match the radius of the tire. So, and some really neat machining work for the yoke to clear the 2.4 tires and the 38 tooth chain ring. And yeah, we kind of was a mishmatch of like kind of gravel and mountain bike spec to make it all work, like mountain bike BB. And yeah, we just went back and forth on the design parameters. And but yeah, he really drove the design and geometry, and yeah, I was just on board to give my feedback but rely on his experience. And we kind of took my gravel bike fit that I've been riding on my opens. It really mirrors those like fit parameters, minus my bars being maybe 1 centimeter higher on the 32-inch bike, and that'll be, I think, like it fits me perfectly. And with that, when we get a gravel specific fork, it'll be really easy to drop the front end for smaller sizes. Just with that mountain bike fork, it's quite beefy around the crown and some space with clearance still, and so you could easily drop, I think, the front end on a 32-inch bike 7 or 8 centimeters when we get a properly designed gravel specific 32-inch fork, which I know there's some of going to be available very, very soon from some of the manufacturers.
I find that interesting. And you touched on some of what you learned from riding this naked bike. I should add, its name is 32 by UWC. And
Yeah.
as you informed me before we hit record, that is for the Underbiking World Championships. So this fits with your love of the underbike, and it takes the bumps better. But is there anything else you've learned from riding this bike?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. Like, there's so many. Like when I tested the mountain bike, there's been so many things changed. Titanium, and then these compliant bird spokes and the bigger wheels. But I mean, yeah, it's the biggest thing I've realized is like how comfortable this bike is. Man, it just on rolling terrain, it really wants to go. I think like the biggest thing on our next project, which I can see with Sam, is it'd be interesting with a properly designed gravel fork working on a bit of that front end geometry. I think there's like more so like descending on the road, like just learning the rider inputs and steering. And I could see we didn't have any options to play around with the fork geometry or the offset. More so on the road, I could feel like I'd want like a bit quicker steering, which when proper gravel forks come out, can play around with that. There was 2 settings on the mountain bike fork, but not one to change the offset in the direction that I would maybe want to go. But overall, like, yeah, it's been super fun bike to ride, down in California around the Bay Area, and then riding the Sea to Sky Trail from Squamish to Pemberton. It's been really, enjoyable bike to ride, which is the main focus of building it. And yeah, really fun kind of platform to get a good feel for the bigger wheel size.
A trend with drop bar bikes, especially in gravel, is the move to higher volume tires. At races, pros and amateurs alike are running tires as big or bigger than what you were racing mountain bikes on early in your career. What do you think of that trend? Is bigger always better in terms of tire volume?
There's definitely some big advantages. I think we've seen a bit of overcorrection, and I think that was just because what was available. I think talking about the chicken and the egg, I think like gravel's been pretty innovative in this area, pushing the limits, and they jumped pretty quick to what was available, and that was just mountain bike tires, and went from, the last 7 or 8 years, gone from 40s to 2.25s, and I think they jumped straight to 225s because that was the mountain bike tire that was available to run on 700C. And I think we'll end up somewhere in the middle. I mean, some people went as far as 2.4s, but I think it was just limited by what tire companies were making. And I think I see that on a 700C bike kind of, ending up in the 50 to 55 millimeter max. But it just really depends on your terrain. I think in North America, the terrain is often a bit rougher than, like, say, Europe. I actually just got a new Open that I'm going to build up with 45C tires for riding over in Europe. Spent a lot of time in southern Czech, where my partner Katarina is from, and that's kind of almost more all road, and like the gravel roads there are so well maintained. It's not as rocky and chunky, and there's a lot more like intermediate roads, and that's where like 45 is a great fit for that kind of gravel riding or whatever. I mean, it's all kind of shades of gray. Depends on where you ride. Like, I spend some time down in the Sierras and Truckee, and that can be really loose and rocky. And yeah, I think I'd love to have a bike with 225 mountain bike tires or somewhere around there. And I'm actually gonna get the other new Open with 700C by, I think it has up to 57 mil clearance. And that's what I really want to get, that perspective, because I kind of jumped straight from running 45C tires to 32 by 2.15 tires and didn't really have a platform to test kind of wider tires on a 700C gravel bike. So I'm interested to, take a step back and ride a 700C bike by, wider. But I think, you see, I think kind of that 50C to maybe 55 on a really rough terrain is, I think, as big as I think that's going to be where it's going to fall for width. I mean, been having that discussion about the bigger wheel size now with Maxxis, but yeah, like the 55 mil tires I have on my 32-inch bike, it feels pretty monster truck. Like, I can't imagine wanting anything bigger than that. Like, I can just mob through some rough stuff, and that feels like a pretty big air volume. I mean, I'm on 30 mil wide rims, and that's another thing that's kind of fluctuated, and where we'll end up for gravel rim widths also has an impact on tire. But I kind of see gravel for 700C kind of ending up 26, maybe 28, and 50, 55 mil tires at the max is kind of a nice medium for most riding. But yeah, it really depends on your terrain and how rough the roads are and how much commuting you do on pavement versus champagne gravel versus underbiking, or yeah.
There is, of course, more to a tire than its size. There's tread compound, casing. But if you look at variations available, say, of just let's take the Maxxis Aspen tire, the differences can be hard to pick out to, say, the untrained eye. What are the most important aspects of tire construction that you point out, maybe to those younger riders you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, I mean, people really tend to just focus on the tread, and that's just like one of many factors that I think kind of lead to performance. When you're looking from a race perspective, I think like, yeah, I mean, it can be really confusing to look at a tire company's website and interpret all the different constructions, but it can really have, yeah, a huge impact on speed. I mean, one big thing, especially with rim width, that changes the speed of a tire is the shape, like how round or square a tire is. Just talking with a young rider last week about, yeah, like a Maxxis Aspen's quite round, so it's the fastest go-to tire. And like a recon race has a bit of a square profile, which gives a bit more grip in the corners, but a square tire loses a bit of speed in the corner. So that profile can have a huge difference. And then the rubber durometer has huge performance. The softness of the rubber has huge performance implications when it gets slippery and wet. Downhill tires are much softer, grippier rubber. In general, XCs are harder rubber because harder rubber rolls faster, but doesn't have as much grip. So when I was racing, we actually made, for specific conditions, we made prototype soft rubber XC tires to give more grip, and actually like won one of my early big wins in the US on like max grip rubber, which is really slow, but it was incredibly slippery conditions, which allowed me to relax and not crash. So there's a trade-off. The softness of the rubber gives more performance. So sometimes, like with the Maxxis construction, there's softer rubber on the edges and harder in the middle, so you get the rolling but still the grip and the cornering. And then there's a lot of work that goes into just the silica compounds and the rubber as far as efficiency, and then the protection layers. I mean, yeah, durability is a big thing. And so what layers of protection are in the sidewall or under the tread? And then there's also thread count, which is, I mean, I liken it to bed sheets. Like the higher thread count is more supple, and you'll see like road and track tires, they're incredibly high thread count because it's super supple, and that makes it more efficient over the small bumps. And so like, yeah, with Maxxis, you see the team only 170 TPI tires, and that gives much more feel on the trail, which helps confidence and rolling speed because it's more supple rolling over the small bumps. But then the downside is these really supple tires are a little less durable and more prone to puncturing. So there's all these small factors that are trade-offs where you get benefits in one area and downsides in the other. And so that's part of my job, is to kind of like test and tease out these small changes. Like this last month, I was testing 3 different Aspen tires that look exactly the same, but are slightly different construction. So the Aspen tires stayed the same design besides changing size, but there's been small tweaks in the rubber and the construction over the years, just behind the scenes little tweaks to help it roll faster or be a little more durable while trying to keep those performance benefits like traction. So there's a lot of subtle details. And when it comes to like talking to riders, it's good to be aware of these, to know the trade-offs and where you can pick a tire that has a bit more performance, but sometimes you have to be aware of the downsides, to like be aware of the tire, the durability, if there's some really rocky sections, to kind of be aware of potential downsides or grip levels or efficiency, and where you can make the most out of a tire. Yeah, I did a lot of that in my career, running some crazy light tires that had performance benefits, but had to be really aware of what tires I was on in certain sections.
Have you developed like a shorthand or a quick decision-making matrix for when you're picking tires? Do you say like, okay, training ride, I'm going to go for durability because I don't want to worry about flats. I don't really care, or that's a priority here. Or are there any similar, way or methods you have for making a decision about which tires to run where?
I wouldn't say there's a matrix, but it's like, I mean, it sucks flatting. It's like the biggest buzzkill. So, like when I'm training, I definitely, go for a more durable tire. I mean, you see some people just training on tubulars all the time, which aren't trending anymore, but you would see people just going for the nicest, fastest tires. And sometimes it's like tough, like I train on the road a bit in the bay, and like there are some like garbage and glass on some of the bike passes stuff. So I often like train down there on the Maxxis Refuse, which is like super durable tire, but it actually is like not great road feel or performance. And so it's like, it's really nice just to ride that when I'm not worried about performance and don't have to worry about slotting when it's wet or cold. But man, when I put back on like a race tire, like the high road, it's like, man, this feels so nice and fast. And so, yeah, it depends. If you're racing, then yeah, you want that performance. But sometimes when you're training, you don't want that buzzkill of having a flat tire, especially if it's winter or cold and wet. So it's that trade-off.
All right, final question, Geoff. What is a big upcoming event for you, and what tires will you be running?
Man, my event calendar is getting pretty slim. The first year was kind of packed. I'm kind of doing some family travel to Europe coming up, and I think the next event, probably gonna jump in this gravel race in Czech Republic, Southern Czech, a big festival. So I'll probably be over there on my open upper with some probably 45C Reavers. I'm terrible I should know all the Maxxis names, but yeah, that's been my go-to European. They're the new kind of semi-slick gravel tire.
Well, what's unfair about Maxxis names is so many of them start with R.
Yeah.
And that's what throws me. There you go. Anyway, Geoff, thank you so much for this deep dive into tech. It's been super enlightening, and I'm sure listeners will take away something as they outfit their own bikes, and look forward to seeing how the 32-inch, are we going to say 32er, 32nd? What are we going to say?
Yeah, there's been some names, but I'm just going with 32-inch for now. Well, I'm sure someone will stick, but yeah, we did a bit of a deep dive into some details today, but hopefully listeners can pull out a few useful tidbits to inform their decisions. But yeah, happy to always answer. I get a lot of questions on Instagram, so if you're having trouble, feel free to shoot me a message and try to get back to as many as I can.
Right on. Well, thanks again, Geoff. Take care.
No problem.
And that's the episode. It is written and edited by me, Matthew Piaro. I had help from none other than Matt Hansen. Thank you, Matt.
Basically, your hype man.
Oh, no.
This was hip hop.
Oh, no. Also, I had heaps of help from mountain bike editor Terry McCall, who has been doing his own exploration into the world of 32-inch wheels. Look to our websites for his insights on the emerging wheel size. All right, Matt, let's go back and watch the tour. More tour.
It's really actually one of the nice things of working here, apart from being around you all day, is we're the only job where you don't have to minimize your window when you're watching sports, or at least cycling. Like if you're watching FIFA or something, I might get in trouble from the boss. Oh, probably not. But definitely cycling, I can just sit back. I'm like, I'm doing my job here, just watching some bike racing. So that's good.
This is your job, having that screen in the corner pretty much all the time.
Mm-hmm. But I have to ask you, did you say heaps because we said swaynow? Because heaps is a very Australian thing to say.
I don't know where that came from. Maybe. I don't say swayno, though. I can't really pull that off. I'll just say Swain Tuft. Okay.
Mr. Tuft to you.
This episode of the Canadian Cycling Magazine podcast is produced by Adam Killick. He does the music too. Also, thanks to Ontario Creates for its support. And thank you everyone for listening. Ride safely, watch the tour carefully if your boss is lurking, and we'll talk to you later.